Pins. Okay. So good morning, everyone, and this is our last day or our last part of the week for Fashion Week, and we're just joined here by Rosalind, and Rosalind, I guess, came to my eye recently because we'd done a project with Ungaro, and we did a big print campaign with Kelly Bailey, one of our members, and she did it, and then your work popped up. And
Right. Okay.
what was really interesting was to see other print designers, people working in print, and last year, we had print designers as well. So we always like to feature because illustrators, artists, creatives work in different disciplines. And when I get to show your PDF, I saw some lovely illustrations at the beginning, so it was kind of a good start to see
Yeah.
see your work. And so I guess first of all, before we start, is uh, an introduction about you, um, your introduction to the world of fashion or print or textiles, and give us a bit about your journey and context about you.
Mhm. Yeah. So hi, I'm Ros, or call myself Studio RFH. That's my little studio that I have by myself now. I actually did study fashion. I went to St. Martin's and I did fashion design with marketing, which is like women's wear. So I always kind of knew that I wanted to do something in that world, and I always was very into illustration. Wasn't entirely sure, so I went on the fashion pathways. And then it was always kind of very linked because they're very sort of strongly into fashion illustration. And I always enjoyed we'd always do a lot of, I think once a week, we'd always have an illustration session. And, very much sort of focused on sort of things are less digital then, I suppose. It was a little bit of a while ago now. So, very much about sort of hand drawing, sort of craftsmanship. And then I moved away from that sort of making to more, you know, decorative kind of illustrative projects. Then I worked in a fashion company, and then I went freelance after about 2 years, which was quite
Oh,
early,
yeah.
I would say. Yeah. I would say if you're going to do it, really make sure you've got a bit of a foundation, you've got loads of contacts, and you know what you're doing. But you always find your own way. So I do like to work for myself. I do like the sort of freedom of choosing my own projects. And I think my sort of fashion background always informs my print design work.
Yeah.
So mhm, yeah, I
So
work with a lot of fashion brands, but I also like to do interiors as well. So I don't like to sort of restrict it just to that, even though that is my background.
yeah. So what I'll do, let me just bring up your presentation.
Yeah.
Um, share this. So hopefully you can all see this. And so a little introduction to us, and then I guess about about you
Hmm.
as a business, and quite an interesting side to you. As you said, you went into
Yeah,
freelancing quite early.
I did. Yeah, yeah, I did. I suppose I'm not sort of very comfortable with sort of a corporate structure, although I think it can give you, well, it's good to have sort of a structure, but yeah, I really like working for myself. So,
I guess we talk about now being more entrepreneurial, which
exactly.
no one really mentioned. You saw it more like freelance, where now I guess the word entrepreneur is
Yeah,
new shift, and it was that sort of move of people that are a little bit like want to do their own thing, uh,
yeah.
and it's quite good, quite I guess quite brave to
It was
jump.
it was it was quite a brave decision. I think look back on it now, it's like wow, I maybe should have, gone into it with being a bit more informed. But then maybe I wouldn't have done it. So I don't regret
Yeah,
doing it because I do love sort of the freedom of choosing my own projects and like the times I work and having my own studio. And yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice, it's a good experience. It is hard, and
Yes.
um, I guess
Hard.
one of the main factors why I've created this sort of collective or group is really because me, you, the freelancers, it can seem quite lonely.
Hmm.
Also understanding having discipline and also about finance, how to make money, when to work for free or not for free,
Yeah.
what are the benefits to all these different factors, and how to really think about your positioning as a business.
Hmm.
Uh, I think it was Sadie Smith who we had last time, and talking about business and how to really operate as a business is, I think, is the
Much
hardest
so.
part.
Yeah, it's I think it's about I don't know. I mean, obviously it's a lot to do with creativity, but I think it's at least 50% sort of thinking about it as a business and also marketing yourself. That's become such a thing now with obviously
Social
more,
media, yeah.
yeah, more and more so. I think you have to really be prepared to do that and always be reaching out to people. It's yeah, always be
It's exhausting because
is.
I spoke to someone recently about their business, and he had said, they really were they felt they had the creative content, but the big bit they were missing was the networking. And
Mm,
he said once we shifted to a more network driven system, which is going out there, meeting people at networking events,
yeah,
business shifted from a quite a small business to a really more
yeah.
full one. Obviously, networking is the hardest,
It's
and
hard. Yeah, you really have to have a certain mindset, I think, for that to sort of talk about yourself in a certain context, like have complete, it's hard. Sometimes you look at your work and you think, oh, sometimes I think it's amazing, and sometimes I think, well, I'm not sure about that. You sort of need to, you have to have complete confidence in yourself, really. And it's when you work for yourself, it's difficult because you don't always have so much feedback. You have client feedback, but you have to sort of go out there with confidence. So I
yeah,
think that's why it's nice to have I work in a shared studio, although they're different people working in different disciplines, we sort of will give each other feedback.
yeah. So it's like a micro university
Yeah,
experience of crit.
exactly.
And then these illustrations popped up. I'm trying to work out how new they are.
Yeah, they're not that new. That you can probably see from the Balenciaga. I think that was I'm not sure what catwalk that was. That's sort of early 2000s. So these are kind of some of my student fashion illustrations. I put this first because that was sort of where I started.
Yeah,
Um, and I think it always links back to my work, like the sort of the silhouette, and I'm always thinking about the sort of position on the body, obviously of artworks.
yeah,
And just having this illustrative hand, I think, has always sort of informed my practice.
yeah,
And it's a time that I sort of always look back at with fondness, I suppose. And I think it sort of is sort of evident in all my work. I do illustrate now, but it's more that I do my print work.
yeah. Because we've got a lot of
Mm.
designers, or so when we did this project recently for Ungaro, we
Hmm.
also, because it was print based and they were only really selling print, was to imagine it through design as well. So one of the things that Ungaro does, which we noticed, was they they'll design the prints, but they'll put it into context. So whoever's consuming or buying the prints doesn't need to imagine where the
Yeah,
print would go, how it works, the scaling of it.
yeah,
And they said to me it really helps from a sales point of view.
really.
So
It's good to
bring
do.
back them illustrations.
Sorry?
Bring back your
I
illustrations.
know, no, I love that. I mean, for my portfolio, sometimes I'll just draw a fashion illustration and drop the print into it, just because I think it's nice to just have that like, hand generated feel. Sometimes I might add some to my website. Actually, I do sort of put them. I do it with Photoshop now or
Yeah.
AI, hate to admit, but yeah, nice to bring
And
that.
and then and then this comes along, and my original thoughts are it has a really nice screen print feel.
Right, yeah. I see what, yeah, it could very easily be color separated. It's actually a digital print. I think I think we did sublimation. I used the Richard Quinn studio for that one, and
Wow.
sent the fabric to my client, who's actually somebody who I was on BA with, Mervel, and she does various things in Norway. She's had a few catwalk shows and has her own labels, and I think she even designs prints now. She is a true entrepreneur, I would say. So I do work with her sometimes.
And it's good. So what's the process that you go from beginning to end to do a print like this?
So this one, I have to admit, is completely. This is a digital print. I drew this in Procreate. I researched lots of. I think it was maybe the Chelsea Flower Show. I had loads of photos of kind of very mixed sort of floral landscapes, and we wanted it to be like really full. And she wanted to have jewel colors for her catwalks. I wanted to. It was even spring summer, but I just wanted to. I didn't want it to be kind of very saccharine, so I brought in a dark background for that
It's
one.
really nice, and I'm impressed that it that quality has come out of Procreate. And I know, there's so many different brush
Yeah.
marks, but it looks handmade, which is amazing.
Yeah, I have to. You can. It is worryingly good procreate what you can create. Even the watercolor brushes. There's I think it's Bardo brushes that I use. I use the brushes that come with the software, but I also have bought a package of brushes just for variation really, and they are very good, I must
Yeah,
say.
no, it looks amazing. It look like I would have guessed you just painted that by hand, and then it also has that screen print look, which is even
Yeah, color
just the
separation.
vibrancy of color is like that's what comes out of screen printing. So it looks
Yeah, and
beautiful.
that's actually even on sheer like it's a stretch mesh
Wow,
actually. So yeah, the color, I was impressed with the color depth that we got from that. Yeah, they're a good studio. Um, I
that's
was pretty
the most
happy.
challenging. And then
Yeah.
more going from the darks to the lights.
Yes. So yeah, this is something I sold a little while through a studio. I did use I'm sort of weaning off working with other studios because obviously you have far more autonomy if you work for yourself. But obviously, building the contacts is a thing. If you work with print studios, I don't know if you're sort of familiar with that model. It's generally you'll have to create like a lot of prints. Like you can do as much as you want or as little, but it could be like you could be doing like 100 prints a month. And I kind of want to move away from sort of mass production, this kind of idea of like a numbers game and sort of not, only selling a few. And I just want to create sort of less of more quality, which is kind
Yeah,
of moved towards my own studio. But this is a hand painted one. Obviously, this is watercolor,
yeah,
sort of a wildflower mix. It started life as a placement print, and the client Monique Lhuillier, ML Monique Lhuillier, they actually asked for it to be put into repeat. So yeah, I did that. I took these floral kind of loosely painted elements and then created texture in the background by overlaying the layer with white just to kind of give it,
the
yeah,
pop.
just a bit of interest in the ground.
Yeah. No, but
Mm.
it's really nice, and I guess do you experiment with like cyanotypes, lino, like go back at all?
I have done, yeah. No, I have done. I've done a bit of lino cutting. I've even, I get really old school sometimes. I've even like cut into a sponge and like done obviously a really simple, graphic print with that. Um, I did one print that was, I think, sold to Calvin Klein Sportswear, and they did. This is the thing. You just do what you want. I was informed by trends at the time. I was seeing these sort of Sanotype prints, so I was in the studio. I found I had some flowers and I laid them on paper and then I sprayed over
Yeah,
them. I don't know if I have that one to show, but that was that kind of I did a lot of experimentation, but that kind of had a really beautiful result, kind of almost
like
ghostly,
yeah,
quite.
that ghosty cyanotype because
Hmm.
cyanotype like it came back really fast. I think
Yes,
there was a Rauschenberg exhibition.
right.
He was a big cyanotype artist,
Mm.
and then I think we saw lots of it, and I'd worked with lots of studios that had done it on terracotta, lots of different materials. So
I've seen a lot of print designers doing it as well. I think it's been over the life. I've seen it for the last, don't know when that exhibition was, but probably for the last sort of 4 years or so, or 3, 4 years,
yes,
I've been seeing that around.
it's still bubbling
It's
about.
still
And
going.
then
Yeah.
more. I guess I'm I'm assuming this is hand done.
This is hand done, yeah. And I put this is a portfolio page. Some of the elements I have used in that print is sort of a continuation of that. So I have this in my portfolio because I just sort of like to show a sort of this sensibility of watercolor painting, a kind of loose hand feel, which I feel I think it's the kind of it's difficult to sort of strike the balance between like commercial, sort of not messy, but sort of hand, I don't know, good enough feeling that it's sort of and personality, but yet sort of still clean. So it's sort of developing that hand, I think, can be, if you are a textile designer, can be quite important because that hand is definitely commercial,
Yeah, it is.
high end and high street for sure.
It is. It's funny you use them words because
Mm,
I designed some scarves for Dior, and
right.
um, they always said your hand. They always referred to my hand like it
Always
was
got that hand
an
and
extra
handwriting.
like a piece. And
Yeah.
she'd always say, "Oh, but your hand is so beautiful." And I was like, "My hand's
Which one?
which hand?" And she said, the way you apply the pen and the way you
Yeah.
draw."
Yeah.
And it was quite
Always.
funny to hear how she was so passionate about my hand and, and the mark making of the
Yeah.
way I drew, because I was
Lovely.
doing pen and ink drawings, and I was quite lucky that I managed to go to the back behind the scenes of Dior, and I
Mm,
had to cover all of the house of Dior to create prints for Raf Simons, and it was a really interesting sort of project, which
yeah.
then we made scarves and various other things, and just like you were saying, like doing watercolor drawings, and I must have made hundreds. I drew
Yeah.
hundreds of flowers, hundreds of silhouettes of figures and
Nice.
shapes,
Yeah, that
and
experimentation. I think when you're a bit more commercial, you do lack that kind of experimentation. I do miss that. Like obviously, I'll go into brands sometimes, but often I'm just creating collections by
yeah.
myself and
And
sort of
like the machine turns on, and then it's right, process. It
yeah,
is
yeah,
it is difficult, and that's the other part is how to disrupt what you're doing sometimes to go right, okay,
yeah,
and what has happened to me sometimes is you commercially you get it wrong. Like I did something, they went, oh, this is way too far, and you have
yeah.
to spend a bit of time coming back, and you can suffer. You can
Yeah,
suffer sometimes. So it is,
a lot of factors, isn't it? To sort of sort of look at their aesthetic, your aesthetic, the current
yeah,
climate. It's yeah, you have to really balance all those things. It's
yeah, and stay in that sort of because as a creative, you just want to create, and then you might want to go crazy and create something, and then they go, you've missed the mark here.
yeah,
It,
yeah.
you're
You can,
way off,
I
and
know
and
it
then
can be
you
quite
get
hard.
sucked straight back to where you were, and then you have a little cry. And say, "Oh,
I go back
I'm
on
back.
it.
I'm back to where I was. They've pulled me back. So it does take a bit of confidence to feed the directors or vision people and say, okay, this is
Yeah.
what could come.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely because sometimes you think, oh, I think often like you might present lots of ideas, and sometimes you think, I don't enjoy this idea, and sometimes they might just jump on it and be like, this is fantastic, this is exactly what we want.
Yeah,
It's not always that it's your favorite,
yeah.
version.
It's the hardest, and I guess putting out there work sometimes that you don't like isn't advisable because they will pick it, and
That's true.
that's the other
Yeah.
thing.
I would rather not do. I mean, sometimes I mean, sort of, you might have sort of several versions, and it might not be your favorite. If I really didn't feel for it, I wouldn't put it forward. Like work
Yeah.
that I don't like. I know a lot of people say keep the work that you hate, and for me, it's distracting. I don't want to see.
Yes,
If I think
but
it's
it
more
usually
work,
gets picked, and it usually gets picked.
yeah,
The most the most ironic thing is you go,
I heard a
don't
lot
like
of people
that.
say that.
And they'll go, oh,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. And you go, how have you seen that? So
Right.
it's interesting. And then we kind of moving into this more like scribey line work, which is really
Hmm. Yeah, this is one I've just done actually. Hasn't found a home yet, hasn't been bought just yet. But yeah, I was this silhouette thing. I think silhouettes are always like a pleasing uh an artwork, really. I always think they look good on the body. They're always sort of simple or elegant, I think. And then I wanted to just add some texture. This I did actually draw the I didn't use a photograph or anything like that. I did draw, curate the kind of the the flowers or the foliage, and then I dropped in this texture, which was just, me scrawling basically to create this kind of interest in it rather than it just being like a flat
yeah.
two print.
It's really nice, and I think I remember doing my foundation, and the tutors were always saying you need to be a textile designer. You need to be, and
Right.
when you're a student, you're like
Mm.
textile designer. Will that make me any money?
Yeah, I
That
didn't
used to be my
think like that.
biggest.
I wish I had.
That was always my biggest quiz because they said, "Oh no, you'd be good in fashion. You'd be good in textiles." I was like, I don't know. I think I want to be an artist." And you kind
Yeah.
of you're having this big wrestling match with yourself. And ironically, I've done lots of textiles and prints and stuff because it's mark making. I think that's what textile design is, a form of mark making, and it's fun.
Yeah, yeah, and it's all I think it's always satisfying to actually see the work worn and used. I find that quite satisfying when you do have a tear sheet or you see people wearing what you've, even if it's high street stuff.
Happy. Once it's out there and it lands on something, it's kind of it's always fulfilling to go,
Yeah,
I did that, there was a
yeah,
result, and they did it in this way. And you go,
yeah.
it's nice to just kind of hand it over and then it transforms into something else.
It's
Which is
quite
quite
nice
fun.
actually to often they don't really change, they generally don't change the artworks that much. I'm seeing more now that they're using them for multiple garments, so that the brands are getting value for what their purchases. But it is nice. I remember seeing I think it was in London Fields, and I hadn't been able to locate the print that I'd sold, and then I saw it um on a girl's sort of, she was wearing a two-piece kind of a cotton, I think it's in here actually,
Yeah.
like a sort of um ICAT kind of design, and it's from Zara. So I thought, Zara, I think as high street goes, I think they have some really good work. I think they have good buyers.
Yeah, I think for me, Zara's probably one of the top. They're the leaders. They've got the design's amazing.
Yeah, they have it down there.
Affordability, obviously, it's only price point that brings them down, but the design
Yeah,
side, they've
yeah.
really, and the qualities come right up as well. So
It's the menswear as well, I think. Yeah. Yeah, so that's, I think, I can't remember which frame it was. It is in there. It's blue and white, and
we'll find it.
we'll find it. Yeah.
And this sort of print, like a rubber stamp print.
Yeah, it kind of is, isn't it? Yeah, kind of almost boutique-ish. I was looking, I have an Indian textiles book. I was looking at there loosely just to sort of find these forms. Like often I will actually make myself, I can get lazy with it. Another textile designer I know says always do a mood board for every little collection. Sometimes generally I just do collections of 4 prints now. I used to do up to 10, and I just think that was kind of forcing it. So I'll do like 4. But I will sometimes, if I'm feeling very good, I will do a mood board for it. Yeah. Which helps. I really think so.
Yeah, but what I've been watching quite a lot on Instagram is the old big block printers, and I don't
Right. Yeah.
wallpaper printers. I don't know why they keep coming up, but I keep
Right.
obviously I must be looking at them a lot. But I keep
Yeah.
seeing this sort of like drag a piece, print it, drag a piece,
Yeah.
and flocking, and
Okay.
all of this sort of
Yeah.
techniques, and
Yeah, I
this
mean, this could
really
be an interior. This could be a wallpaper or something. I think it's
puff
definitely.
printing. It's
Uh,
like, I could see this could be in so many different ways, which is really nice. And then you've got this sort of print. I'm trying to work because now you foxed me with your digital print. I don't know whether I don't know if this is digital or
That's
real.
not digital. No, yeah, that's definitely not digital. I do try. I do say that I sort of try to. The one before was hand painted as well. I do try and sort of towards the hand painting because that's what I enjoy the most. And I think with the sort of move towards AI, I sort of want to move as far from it as I can,
Yeah,
take it back to sort of craft and handmade things. But this is actually inks and then bleach painting,
nice,
just playing around
nice.
in Photoshop and then creating this almost leopard abstract floral leopard. Obviously, it's sort of got lots of different connotations.
Yeah, it's really nice, and I'm trying to think of. It has a sort of, unfortunately, it has a sort of burning LA feel, which I
Oh,
don't. I
yeah.
look, I see this fire.
Oh my
There's
God. Yeah.
there was lots of fire.
Cool.
We saw lots of artists who, Ed Ruscha who did the burning of buildings, and since LA went on fire, I'm seeing everyone posting these sort of burning pictures.
Gosh, yeah, I hadn't made that link actually. I did create this a bit before what happened in LA. It wasn't intentional, but I can see the fire.
I can see fire in it, and unfortunately, it's becomes a trend. Wildfires. There's lots of them.
Yeah,
Even though it is in LA, it becomes a trend, and then from that, because where I lecture, we do a lot of trend forecasting with WGSN,
yeah,
and with that, it is looking at things like that. There's wildfires. Is it going to inspire art? Buildings
yeah.
on fire. So this could resurrect itself as a
Actually
as
doesn't
a
exist
sort of
in a
fire
bubble.
print.
Yeah,
But it's it,
amazing.
it's really nice, and I love this sort of bleaching and old
Hmm.
process as well. And then here, this is lovely.
Thank you. This is a brand I work for. It's quite a small brand, but it's actually one of my favorite things I've done in the last few years because I had a lot of like autonomy working directly with the brand through a friend at a fashion consultancy. And it was sort of like during and after the lockdown. So if I think people were sort of coming to him and wanting to start brands up, which was interesting, during the lockdown and during COVID. So yeah, it was a client that wanted to make a brand with, very ethical with a sort of circular mentality, using I think a lot of brands like Phoebe English as well are using reclaim, fabrics that are left over from big fashion houses. So they were doing the same, like using wools and silks and repurposing them like dead stock fabrics. And this they wanted I think it was my idea actually to do this. They had this sort of wave symbol, sorry. And they wanted to have it. This is the sort of one of their this suit was kind of one of the key things that they made. So I said, why don't we do a giant hand painted waves? So I think I ended up, it was huge, and I did. It was this nice idea of lots of experimentation and loads of versions to get this like perfect wave because I didn't, that I think it is what it is. I wasn't going to Photoshop it or change it much other than just cleaning it up and just applying it to the garment. So it
Yeah.
was like giant, wave artwork, and we did a couple in different color tones.
And how would they have done this? Would they have printed a white, and then so
I think
explain the
so, or is it
process?
maybe it was a discharge print? I'm not sure actually with this one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that I guess that knowledge of information, because as a fashion designer, I'm trying to draw it out of you because learning about discharge prints and direct garment,
Yeah, you
these
do need to,
different terminologies, you're
yeah,
this is what
you need to
I
talk
try and
about it.
explain. Don't go too early being a freelancer because the language you'll have to learn,
Yeah,
different forms of printing. There's hundreds of
it's important.
techniques.
I think you need to sort of advise people like how to use a print. I mean, mostly I think they'll know and they'll just sort of clients will sort of just do what they want with it.
Yeah.
But sometimes, you do need to talk about that to sort of explain your work, how it might be used, and yeah.
Yeah, and the knowledge is a key factor because
Oh.
then sort of consultancy opportunities kind of pop up there with your font of information, and knowledge.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. You can be very helpful if, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
It's
great. And then this is wonderful.
this, yeah, I enjoyed this one again. This is like this again, it's the same brand. Like I really enjoyed it because it was really like explorative and experimental. So this I actually created by weaving paper, and then creating just literally just taking strands of paper and then creating forms and then putting it together into a print, like playing with scale, texture, see applying different colors. That was with picking out the colors with Photoshop. And then again, I preferred, I think I preferred this more neutral. They did do it, I think, in a brown and a turquoise, but I didn't find that as successful. I also
Mhm.
really enjoy things. I really like menswear because I think, we can be sort of really so maximalist. Not that
Yeah,
men can't be maximalist, but we can be with print design, like an explosion of color. Everything's just full of color and florals, but sometimes it's just nice to be like quite minimal.
yeah,
Take it
yeah.
back.
It's really they almost now they look like woodblock prints.
Right. Again, yeah, maybe drawn to that. Yeah. That
It's
simplicity.
it's it's really they're really nice. And you converted the paper pieces to a Photoshop collage, or how did you do it?
So I scanned my I don't have them. I scanned my different, I did sort of square maquettes or whatever
Yeah,
of the weaving. And then yeah, I just scanned them and I started to position them and sort of scale them down, use them as strips, work them into repeat, use that kind of zigzag. I was looking a little bit at kind of jockeys colors and things like that, but I think that's not really very PC to talk about. It's not my
yeah.
favorite.
No, I think the colorways here are really nice, and I think the challenging part, like with all the people that I kind of speak to,
Mm,
is students having that ability to dance between analog and digital. They're going to
mm,
digital too quickly, and they're missing
yes.
out on that sort of understanding of design development to
Yeah.
just using digital as a tool to refine it, not to
I think
create
so.
it.
I tend to prefer that. I tend to start with a handmade. I'd really try and do that if I have time. I definitely prefer to do that. I think I think clients prefer it as well. I think because everything is becoming now so digital. You can see it. I can usually tell the difference if I look at studio artworks. I can see that it's been digitally drawn.
Yeah,
Not always, but often I can.
yeah. And do they request? Because I did some prints for Tom Ford, and when we did them, I had to do them all with pastels, even though they were embroidered. And it was weird the process that we went through, and I was like, why are we going through? And this is the way we do it, and this is the way Gucci did it.
Actually, I like that as well.
So they kind of kept to that.
Mm.
And also, the other factor was if I have a show at the Guggenheim, can I show the prints being handmade? So the designer has a sort of a vision of
Right.
how their work's going to be perceived. So
Mm.
that was a key factor with how we did stuff and how they looked at like brands like Giorgio Armani. I went to the Armani exhibition, and you see these hand drawing pieces, and it's amazing to just see how they operate. The
Yeah.
drawing, the
That's.
approach is so powerful, and you can see why they're worth so much because
Mhm.
there's the labor of love goes like the things we get taken away, that labor of love just to speed it up. They
Yeah,
they stick to it. They're like, this
yeah,
is the way we're going to work. We work slow.
that's the luxury brands. Yeah, I think when you get to work like that, it's
It's a luxury
it's a
experience.
luxury in itself. It is, yeah.
It,
It
it is. It's a
definitely
definite luxury. But
is.
all of these prints and you've got a sort of a misregistered print. So you'd learn that through printmaking as well. So there's a
Uh-huh.
really nice. These what was this for?
This again was this was a different brand actually, but it was these weren't actually these were a lot of designs that weren't used, but these are some of my favorites. Actually, this one is this at the bottom. This is this checkboard. Um, So again, this is a sort of portfolio page that I put when I sort of apply to from or pitch for sort of more experimental high-end work, I'll use this page because I think it's some of my favorite, it's kind of it was quite sort of quickly done and kind of experimental, and but I think it's some of my favorite pieces because it's so kind of spontaneous.
Yeah.
Yeah. But a lot of stuff, a lot of my favorite things aren't used, I think they're amazing.
Yeah, we were at I was at a show yesterday, and it was designers from Hong Kong, and they had stuff that aligns with this. So I think to a UK market, this probably might not happen. But if
Yeah.
you went to more Asia, where they're
Really?
being more playful, Hong
Yeah.
Kong, all them, if you'd have seen the graphic prints that they were doing, they were bringing back, and they were also like weaving prints into some of their knitwear. It was so, I don't think people recognized what they were doing and appreciating everything, because they were sort of trying to over design in some ways to capture the audience. But
Hmm.
they had these really nice graphic oversized prints that were similar, but more oversized. And I think maybe the Hong Kong side,
Right. That's interesting.
just to as a foot of note that I've spotted,
It's interesting.
and
Yeah.
that sort of combination of that yellow with the white and that sort of deep blood red.
Yeah.
That combination it would be too risky. The
I
UK
think,
run away from that, where
yeah.
yeah,
I
they're
think probably, yeah, to put into production, these are quite full on, aren't they? But
yeah, but it
um,
will. If you think of Paul
they're
Smith
not
in
that commercial.
Japan, Paul Smith in Japan uh, doesn't work in the UK. You know, the prints that work in Japan, and I think if you imagine that market, it's really getting to connect to that market. That's a market I personally haven't tapped into enough, but a lot of people I'm speaking to is that's where the creative hubs are. And yesterday they had the uh, fashion commerce department there. So there was like a real big push for designers from Hong Kong. And because I've seen designers from Africa and I've seen India, but the Hong Kong one seemed the most creative, more experimental. And because they really push trends. So
Yeah.
reach out if you're going to reach out, because he was saying anyone interested in thinking of partnerships or collaborations, speak to the Chamber of Commerce in Hong Kong, the UK department, and
Mhm.
we're looking to work with people. So try if I find the name of the person, I'll share
Yeah,
it with you.
please do. I'd be very interested. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
because I think it's a definite sector for you, and that purple, green, and red one. I'm trying to think. I remember I worked on a print similar for Kitsum,
uh-huh.
and we did something. I did it as it was a t-shirt print, and he
Right,
did sort of a screen print. So it kind of like anti-punk, playful.
right.
Looks like a woodcut print. It's really
Yeah,
nice. So you're tapping into my world, which is really, which is really nice. And then kind of
it's
moving
Zara
into
print.
this. This is lovely.
Yeah, this is the one that I saw walking around London Fields, and I was happy to see it. Yeah, so just I like the fact that they've used cotton, and I obviously prefer sort of more natural fibers, and very sort of digital. So yeah, I like this. I think it feels quite.
And what made you do that? Like it looked like it's burnt.
Yeah, do you know what? Sometimes I just do things. I felt like it just needed a pop. I thought, I'll just do it blue and white. And I just felt like it just needed a bit of a depth. I wasn't thinking about fires or anything like that. I just wanted to lift it. I suppose obviously it's the contrasting color, the blue and the orange, and I just wanted it to have like, I don't know, that sort of, I can never say this, ICAT or ICAT kind of feel where it's sort of, bleeding into one color into the other,
Mm.
shibori kind of look with the sort of blur, but again, it can't be too blurry because it's not commercial enough. So yeah, I mean, this one I had to, if you sell anything to Zara, they always want to, that you have to give them all your elements. They really want to know, like, I think I had to go back and do a a mood board because again it was a bit spontaneous. I drew a set of prints like this in these color tones, and then yeah, you really have to sort of show you're working for that. So it's obviously copyright, and you have to. I think obviously now they want to check you're not using AI because people are now, obviously. So yeah, just showing your sort of thought process, your like research. Where did you get these ideas from? And
So
yeah,
if you were using AI, is that seen as a bad thing?
yeah. I mean, I think it's inevitable. I've sort of looked into a bit, but I don't. I'm reluctant. But yeah, no, I think I'm pretty sure.
But Zara don't like you using AI to develop prints.
I I don't think so. I haven't sold them anything in that recently,
Oh,
but
okay.
they I'm pretty sure they wouldn't. I'm sure they're using it in house. I think everyone in house is looking at ways to do it.
Yeah,
But I generally I wouldn't no, I don't sell AI
yeah.
generated. I don't
And also the process of this, it feels like as if you attacked wood.
right.
And I'm trying to work out because it has that sort of woodcut feel, like you've dug in.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. I
Almost
don't
like
know
a
what
Betty
your
Eliza
intention
kind
was.
of thing. I suppose I really do like a two color or like quite simple prints. I suppose I do wear towards them quite a lot. Um, and also I think they're often very commercial or saleable. You know, they're quite easy to wear, I suppose. You know, not
Yeah, it's really nice, and you can see has sort of like from afar it looks like clouds, and it has
right.
that sort of Japanese print as well. So there's
That's
a real
true.
nice.
Yeah, I see that actually. It does feel kind of
That could
Japanese.
have gone in your reverse engineer the mood board uh,
Yes.
for
Yeah.
woodblock prints and kind of
Yeah.
reimagine it. And then
Environmental.
these are lovely.
Thank you. I put this here just to show that really yeah, when I do studio work, which is for other studios, I don't really do that so much now, but I don't know if sort of anyone's interested in it as a sort of career path as a print designer, but when you do work for studios, you generally do your own printing on silk as well because it looks the most beautiful
Yeah,
on silk. I often go for a silk satin or a Georgette or something like that or a crepe de chine. I think satins are my favorite because I love the feel of it and I think they're really luxurious,
yeah,
a little bit more expensive. But yeah, really, I think it really sells your work well, and that's like a real sort of part of working for a studio where you actually have to, you do your work and then you prepare your print files. It's quite a process, and then you send it to your printing wherever you get your printing done. You get it back, you sew it. If you want to do all that, obviously I don't always do that all the time, but it's quite like a sort of hands-on process, and then you
yeah.
get to see your
And
work.
were these all digital made?
These ones were actually, yeah, I was obviously having a bit of a digital phase here. Yeah, I do. I suppose I do probably do about a 50-50 mix at the moment, but I'm really trying to move back to, you know,
Analog.
log.
But, but I don't think that's a bad thing. It's all about the
Yeah,
outcome. And I think the
I agree.
outcome,
I agree.
I'm only
Yeah.
asking you to see, because if I look at it, I personally wouldn't know.
Oh, really? That's interesting. Yeah, I suppose I know because I know. But actually,
Yeah, but
yeah.
so if you were vetting you, would you know this is a digital print?
No, because I think you could draw I think the middle one could be hand painted with like a gouache or maybe an
Yeah,
acrylic or something. And then I think the ones either side, you could just draw your elements in pen. Who knows, and then you can take them back and then add the
yeah.
color.
So
So you can't really tell.
well done from that side is sort of because usually there might be little glitches or little problems that you could spot, and then you say, "Oh, I can see the digital." But here it's disguised so
Right.
well. So I guess that's a
Right.
temptation. That's good to you. So from your side is perfect. And then this print, and it almost looks like you've gone for it.
Yeah, just mark making really. Again, it's a sort of experimentation. Just really enjoy sort of it's just texture and sort of abstract form and almost like just the marks that you get when you're sort of testing colors. I always
Yeah,
find that more interesting than the print sometimes. So just sort of I think putting that in to kind of maybe counterbalance all the
yes.
digital.
No, 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 no. It's good, and then it kind of informs this. So Abercrombie and
Yeah.
Fitch, nice.
Abercrombie, yeah, that was one I sold to Abercrombie and Fitch, which I sadly never found in store. I do look. It's the thing with I think selling your prints, you don't always get to see them. And you don't even always, when you sell through studios, the sadness of that or other studios is that you don't always know where they've gone to. You don't know who's bought them because obviously, the studios are very protective of their clients because you can say, oh, I've sold you lots of prints. Why don't we work directly with each other? So they can be very protective, obviously, in that way. So yeah, it can be a bit sad that you don't always, you don't know where they've gone or you don't know where you don't see the outcome. So yeah, it's nice. It's nice when you do, but I do know who bought this one, and that was Abercrombie and Fitch. This one was very much hand painted with watercolors, and I did it with I've forgotten what it's called, where you paint with the kind of what it's
The
called, where you
glue and pull it off.
yeah, it's sort of rubber, and you let it
Yeah,
dry, and then I
nice.
layered it, painting over it, and then doing the same again, and then just I take the digital artwork and then create a repeat. So again, I don't really when I paint like this, I don't really change a great deal. I didn't really change the colors. I'll sort of pick out. I'll change the color balances so that I think they'll print well or they're not. Like this green, I think can become a bit murky if you're not
Yeah,
careful. So sort of picking out the black and the red and like. But other than that, I just put them into repeat and
it's really, really nice. And I think just the whole, it's a labor of love now. And I think
yeah,
that's what this sort of becomes is a labor of love.
yeah, these are
And
enjoyable. And I
it's
think also
really nice.
commercial because the ditzy print thing, everyone, these sort of small
Yes.
ones they're always popular.
And then kind of bringing in all your other elements as well. So where you
Yeah.
get a bit more playful.
Yeah, so this is definitely a playful project. This is Lions of Windsor that sort of a designer who I often work with called Lisa Todd. She brought me into this, and it was cool because there was a line by Zandra Rhodes, and this it's tiny actually, you can't really see it, but this kind of Zandra Rhodes squiggle. So that was pretty cool. And then Caf Facette did one as well. And then they were all auctioned for charity. And I was obviously invited to do one as well. So I decided to kind of make it about a sort of nocturnal sort of tropical garden. I can't remember my influences with this, but I this is what I did. This huge lion, it was almost life size, like delivered to my studio, and then I had to hand
Oh
paint
my
it.
God.
Yeah, that was quite a labor of love. It was
But,
fun.
but
It took
from,
a
from
lot longer than I thought.
from this, you could imagine more murals.
Yes, yeah, yeah. I haven't really ever. I have a few friends that go into that sort of doing live illustration work and murals. It's not really something I've done, but I know what you mean. It does lend itself to this for sure. Yeah,
Because
with
they're
these
really nice.
elements.
It's really nice and graphic, and you could imagine it huge. It has a possibility for scale. And
Yes, what
I
you
just
mean.
think, what about set
I
design? Have you done any set design?
haven't, but I'd absolutely love to do that. I love interiors, so no, I would actually really love to do that. I love to sort of curate and sort of put things together, kind of unexpected elements. I do enjoy sort of humor as well, and sort of
I mean,
yeah.
you can see it in this, and I think this, just this example here, you could imagine almost like visual merchandising for stores, all them
Yeah,
sorts of places
this
is
would be lovely in a
perfect.
window, actually, wouldn't it? Like if it's just the elements in a window or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Pretty cool.
Well, I think in Photoshop you could easily get these and try and build into the store, and I think it's just that thought process because we had a meeting with an agent. So over the week we've been meeting with agents, artists, and
No,
what was fascinating to hear from the agent was that they feed the imagination of the company with ideas, obviously to make more money, but to um, enable things to happen. So, for example, like I'm doing here, I'd say, wouldn't this look really good as a mural? Or
yeah,
wouldn't it look good, all the elements being done for a visual merchandising, that could easily work in, numerous different stores for different way. Kenzo, imagine Kenzo.
yeah. Love Kenzo. Yeah, I can see that. I suppose I'm sort of influenced. I love sort of 80s Kenzo, that kind of aesthetic, obviously, who
Yeah,
doesn't?
so a store designed for Kenzo, it's just reimagining that. And one thing I've tried to bring to myself recently is trying to think more like a student. A student is a
Yeah,
little bit more, I don't
open.
care, I'm gonna
Mhm.
try this.
Really interesting. Yeah, we
You
do. I think
can,
we do get very like almost blinkered and like, I sort of like, oh, I'm just drawing textile prints and that's the destination. So yeah, I try not to, but I think it's very
just
easy.
have it's a habit, but I'm trying now to
Yeah,
push myself a little bit harder to kind of break some of the molds and say, okay, I want to do more of this. How can I do it?
yeah,
And it's just that sort because 100% Kenzo, 100% visual merchandising for the stores. They'd be so great and they'd be amazing, massive. And the set design for a photo shoot,
yeah, I love that.
I could see all
Yeah,
of that.
yeah. I
It's
have thought
just,
about that actually, but I think it's another of these things. It's like, oh, I'd love to do this, and yeah, but set
yeah.
design does interest me and kind of surrealism and just yeah, bringing
Yeah, I could see it just through this lion. I think it really sort of evokes something where you're building characters and there's like a little bit more narrative you
yeah,
can break from it. And I feel like I can see
yeah,
it. I can feel like there's a river and a tree and they're very graphic. So that
yeah.
tends towards set design and I
That's
think less decorative. And I think
yeah. I never thought of it actually as set design, but again, it's always something I'm interested in. I always enjoy, when I see Liberty's windows, I think, God, I'd love to do
yeah,
that.
because John Booth, who's someone else we'd spoke to, he does he does smaller pieces, and now is sort of break Selfridges. He did something for Selfridges, and I just feel
Yeah,
that just looking at this now, I reckon a challenge.
yeah. He
Setting
was actually in my year. He was in my year actually on print at
Oh,
university.
well, you can now see he's doing
Yeah,
these little elements, and next minute these flowers have turned into a sculpture, which turned into ceramics. And I think
I
he's
like the
kind
way
of
he links his practice. It's interesting. Yeah, I do follow his work as well. It's yeah.
yep. So he's a good kick up the bum for all of us to motivate
He
us
is.
to
He's
say,
yeah.
right, do this, try that, and Yinka and all these different like creatives now, how they're shifting between print design to set design to experience design, and it kind of you have to see how can I, and it does take you a lot of strength to kind of go, I'm going to try and make that out of MDF, get it cut.
Yes,
It's a
exactly.
cost and it's a hassle, but it is a case of what would a student version of me do?
Yeah, going
So
back to
it's
that is
it's
yeah,
a
I miss that. I think it's nice, like sort of seeing my fashion illustrations. I sort of put that in my portfolio again because I sort of thought, yeah, that's a kind of part of me that I kind of miss.
yeah, no,
Like,
and they were lovely. And,
thank
and they were so good, and the technique and the style is definitely there. So, and then kind of moving again, shifting over to a much more graphic print. So we're reducing down.
yeah. So this is actually more something that I just put this in because it's sort of work that I did a bit earlier, but it's again this is my sort of friend and client Lisa Todd, and this is me turning her paintings into scarves, rugs, and sort of managing that process. So this is something I did a while ago, but I just thought it was kind of an interesting project because if when you're sort of starting, but when you're sort of building up your career, it's good to have like various projects, I think,
Yeah,
or various things that you can do or pick up. So these are actually I think these were sold in Liberty, these trays, and I think the scarves as well. So yeah, just that was just again a project that I enjoyed, sort of working with her, sort of taking her paintings and the colors and sort of the layouts, and then creating and sort of go. It's nice as well to sort of do the whole. I think it was a collaboration with Floor Story. These rugs, sort of, going through that, sort of managing that process, and like
Yeah, and it's a bit more fun and less
it's
pressure.
fun. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's a fun
yeah,
project.
yeah. I like to have sort of. I don't always want to do fashion, so it's nice
Yeah,
to do
and
that.
this is definitely, and then a little bit more pushing it again.
Yeah. So this is actually some very good friends of mine have a brand called Pietro Chiara. Um, they sell with Artemis now, and they sort of do all the um, it's called Furore Saloni. It's part of Milan Design Week, I mean to say.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, so they've done all of those things, it's really great. They've just sort of, they've had the resources to set up this brand, and I've done all their illustration work for them. And also for this is I forgot what it's called now, but this was like an installation in a sort of palazzo, yeah, in
yeah,
yeah, palazzo. I forgot the word. So yeah, we were sort of talking about it, and they said, oh, they always want me to sort of what they do is they have these beautiful installations, and then they'll do a a postcard or a handout of the installation. So I'll draw it.
yeah,
This one, it was nice because they had the shape a bit, but they didn't really know. We were talking about colors and like, see, that was a year or so ago. So those were sort of the colors of that year. So we were talking about sort of placement, and in the end, it was nice. I got to basically design and do the color direction, and so that was, I really enjoyed that, and the layout, because I was. It ended up that I was sort of we were working together, and I was kind of suggesting things, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to do like a wild card of design, and they were like, right, we're going to go with that. So yeah.
and it's lovely, and it's more. You need more of this. I think it's great to.
Mm,
It's kind of fun and fresh,
yeah,
and it's kind of very youthful. And I think, we're thinking of like Cecil Beaton and all these amazing illustrators. You're kind of tapping into that.
yeah. I
This
suppose
world's
it's
coming
design,
back.
isn't it, really?
Well, this is there's a bit of a demand because I'm speaking to in New York. New York seems to love this work. The more Americas, England
Right.
England struggles with a lot of stuff. So it'd either be
Yeah.
this or New York. That's
Okay,
the
interesting.
two hubs.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose it's kind of more exuberant because they are Italian, and obviously, they do all the sort of, yeah,
Yeah,
design wise.
London's a tough one to crack with
Mm,
regards to because we're based in the UK. You have to be kind of outward looking, and I guess most of my work does now happen in America. So
mm.
and it's sad because we're here, and you want to go,
No,
where's my stuff? And it's
yeah,
mainly not in England, and you're like,
things are
well.
moving away more and more, aren't they? I'm finding that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just one of them things, and the UK creative market is really suffering. Um, anyway, I think that the last slide. I think it
Last
might be.
slide. Yeah,
Is that the last slide? I think it is the
pretty sure
last
it is.
slide. So I'll post also a little bit about Instagram and how people can see your work.
Yeah.
And we'll put your talk online because people love to see this and to see little journeys and
Yeah.
and
Nice.
and just get sort of engaged with your work. And I came across your work. I think I might have come across on LinkedIn or something, and
Yeah, I think we're on LinkedIn. Yeah.
it was via LinkedIn. And I'm lucky that you spent some time with me. So thank you for this.
Nice. Thank you, Patrick.
And it's great to see and share. And we have lots of students and print designers and people like that who'd be super interested to hear what you've got to say.
Brilliant.
So
You
thank
give me
you
a different
again.
way of looking at my work as well. So thank
No,
you.
no, but thank you, and it's been great, and the variety, and hopefully in another year's time, I'll be seeing visual merchandising
I hope so. Every window.
every window. You never know. So, but thank you so much, and thanks for your time.
All right.
Brilliant.
Thanks.
Bye bye. Okay, thank you.